but if someone could do the disclaimer about.
Five.
There's this many people that supply and wins and provide.
Yeah.
Not an SAT test.
For years. It's the SAT test. Okay, 5 o'clock, so plan on starting this meeting. We begin the meeting. This meeting is being recorded, and participation in the meeting is consent to be recorded. To the rebroadcast of the recording meeting will be posted on the website.
I'll do roll call. Will Clevenger,
Present.
Paul Benedictus, present. Gary Parrott, present. Valerie Richard, present. I'm Rod.
I think you said Karen. Yes, I'm here.
Did Karen. We are all present.
Good. The first item on the agenda is the election of officers. First,
I nominate Sally Ricciardi for president.
Can I ask a question as we go on here? If there's
Yes.
more than one nomination, is that a process? Or was it more than one person interested or getting nominated? Or do we do one
do one
and then vote, and if that person doesn't get it?
That person doesn't get it, then you ask for another nomination.
Okay.
And it would die for lack of
We've had a lot. I think people are having a good thing.
Okay. We have elections. The first on of the elections is for president. Bill Clevin nominated Sally Ricciardi. Do I have a second?
I'd like to, I don't know if there's like an appropriate process for this, but I'd like to hear from, to consider, not just Sally, but I know that Paul is also interested in the position. And so if it's okay to hear a little bit about, from both, just so I know who I would feel comfortable seconding, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I don't,
I'm fine with that too.
yeah. I don't have a problem with that.
Hey, Paul and Sally, this is Karen real quick. Do I vote on this or not? I don't know.
You're a non-voting member, so I believe you wouldn't be.
I would participate in this election of office. Okay, good point.
Yeah.
I guess I have a question.
You can ask questions, you can ask, points of question for a second. And if there is no second, then it would fail to go back in a second.
My question is that, does it make sense, given that you're on the town council as well, Sally, and the CRC, these appointments in this commission, works closely with the town council, is it more conducive or less conducive to have the president of this commission also be serving on the town council? I guess I'd love to hear the pros and cons of that.
I think that definitely I would have the ear of what the council is looking at, but I would also be open to new ideas and other presentations.
Well, secondly, also, the CRC basically takes direction from the council. So that's why typically it's always been the council member that's been present.
Great.
And
Yeah.
I don't know that there are any cons that,
Is that a question to just Sally or to both?
So I guess what would be the pro then, Paul, in your mind, of not being connected to town council as?
And as Bill has pointed out in the past, the president has been a council member. I don't know if that's made a difference in communication and coordination with the town council. But I would say, in my case, I have worked with the town council on the municipal utility project, and I understand and been involved in the initial economic development work. So I understand that the town council drives what CRC needs to do. And I understand that whoever is the president would participate in town council meetings as well. They're supposed to provide a report at the town council meetings and act as that coordinator. And I think the other point on that is, I don't think either of us would be less committed to coordinating with the town council, but I don't think it's a disadvantage that the president is not a town council member, because you still have connection to this town council, because 2 of the 5 voting members are council members, and they in turn will be communicating back what they see.
so if there's a second, then fine, otherwise we will. If you don't feel comfortable with seconding, then we'll this dies for lack of a second. Do I have another nomination?
I nominate Paul Benedictus for CRC president.
Is there
And
a
is there a
second?
I'm sorry, I'm still, I realize I'm the deciding choice vote
Yeah,
here.
there's
and,
a scapegoat.
Yeah, there is no scapegoat. I can't
Yeah.
just, as the new guy, fall in line. And so I've been wrapping my head around this a little bit the last day or so. And I have great respect for both Sally and Paul, and I want the council to work effectively together in this commission. And I trust both of you in the role. And so that's why I'm torn right now. So I apologize for my hesitancy to second either of you, because it's a respect for both of you.
Well, that, and you're new. I don't know that you know either of us.
Either as well. And so whenever it gets second, whoever, if somebody comes up with a majority, because there's a vote after that, and obviously voters up for the vote can't vote for themselves, and it remains to the other 4 on that. So I don't know what we do when there's no second on either. Is there a third nomination?
I don't know what the actual point is, whether I mean, we're sort of at a stalemate, so to speak.
We're going to go back to Well, I guess I'll second the nomination for Paul, so that we can get into a vote.
So it's been seconded, and now it's a vote.
Yeah.
And as secretary, still, until you vote on your secretary, I'll go through it, calling to by name, or actually, we're all here.
We're all here, so you don't have to go through by name.
No. So the motion is on the floor, it's been seconded. All for CRC president, all in favor? All against?
Nay.
Present.
The motion is failed.
Yeah, the motion's failed. So,
I'll go back to, I'd like to nominate Sally as president.
okay.
Second.
Do I have a second? Thank you, Bill. All in favor?
Aye.
President?
Aye.
Present. So that, what does that make it, a draw? Or two ayes and no nays?
Well, the present basically is not a vote. So if she just got
You got the
one
two,
vote,
you got the two votes, and you were the president.
yeah.
Okay. Now, vice president, do I have a nomination for vice president?
Okay, well, I nominate Sally.
Well,
She's the
I
president.
got the president,
Oh, you're the
vice
president?
president.
Okay,
Do I have a nomination for vice president?
I nominate Paul.
Do I have a second for vice president?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think that's,
That works out well.
yes. Now,
We didn't have to go to wrestling on the ice, so we're actually
no,
pretty good.
we're actually, we're okay. The next, office is secretary.
It's a coveted office.
It
And
is
I-
a coveted office.
That I am glad to help whoever chooses to do that.
Shadow secretary.
It's just a joke.
Here.
With mask, it's hard to tell, right?
You actually record this on a separate recorder, do you not?
No, it's just not.
Oh, it's on tape. So,
There is a recorder though available.
yeah, you have it available to anyone that became secretary. So. As president, I guess I can nominate someone.
Anyone can nominate someone.
Yes. I see that Gary is trying to hide, but I would like to nominate Gary as secretary.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yes.
It's not that difficult a job. When people have been missing, because of scheduling, they can't be there, it's easy enough for somebody else to pick up those minutes.
That is true.
And I'm glad to go through how I do the notes with you and everything else. And I'll do tonight's. If you are uncomfortable with it, I can finish off the rest. All right.
Next on the agenda is approval of minutes. We have the minutes. I don't know if you all got a copy of the minutes for January 25th.
Those, if I can add,
Yeah,
those minutes, because the town council didn't vote on selection for CRC members in time for the January meeting. They extended the 2020 team and authorized them to vote only on approval of previous minutes, on
basic
expenses, claims, and financials. nothing to do with any of the issues that are facing 2021.
I believe if you read the minutes, then you can vote on it, even though you weren't present. So, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have the 2020 financial overview, which is the financial report from Karen.
Yeah, I do not have January's financial report
Right.
done. I'm very close, but just not enough time yet. And then I did provide you all a 2020 overview, and that would be used in another month to do the TIP report for the Department of Local Government Finance,
Right.
when that report is due.
Okay. Anyone have problems with the December financials? We don't actually have a cash flow for January.
I did reach out to Rich, and he had left, there were 2 things that he was going to add on there for me, and then I'll start updating that as we go through the year as well.
Very good. And
You did give us a 2020 financial overview, though, that everybody got, right?
right,
Yes.
right. And, are there any questions on that?
You do qualify for free ride in the area fire truck, we spent $100,000 on that to help the town with it, so.
I don't know that they're giving free rides this week. And the next item on the agenda is claims of the week. If there are any questions on that, we'll hopefully have everything in order for March. And claims, she's sent a copy of the claims. These are claims that the Indiana Department of Transportation had claimed an invoice for $123,758.42, and that's for the West Jefferson entrance. 46,000 for the $46,915.58 that comes from the capital TIF 1 for the State Road 17 or State Road 10 sidewalks. Are you familiar with the State Road 10 sidewalks? Okay. Troyer Group. These are paying that one, Max. Is that engineering?
Yeah, they're working on engineering and design, and that's part of the NDOT grant. It's an 80-20 split, so NDOT will pay 80% of the bills, we pay 20%, which is why it's split on the side. It'll come out of different accounts. But there weren't,
And then that's why they're burning out the way they are, is because of the Max Trail 3 and Max Trail 2. We also have a claim. Normally we do claims at the end, but which kind of throws me, but I have a claim for Bob Noah, and he applied for the Façade grant. I think in July of last year, for redoing the front of his building. That's the one on North Main Street, across from the library. And that's been completed, and he submitted his bill. And what we approved was 50% of the lowest bid that he put in. And so he actually provided the bill, which was less than the estimate. And so his portion would be $24,428.03, with a total of claims of $227,154.91. Do I have a motion to approve the claims?
Make that motion.
I move that we accept the claims.
Second.
Oh, you did? I
Yes.
second. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion by Paul, and a second by Bill.
Before we vote, you can, if there's any
Yeah,
questions
if
that you
there's
have.
any questions.
I realize this is new to some of you. Okay.
Got it?
So all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I heard 4, 5 ayes, so. I guess I should have asked if there were any opposed.
I'm sorry, I'm doing the secretary thing. I don't want it. We've been doing it so many times where it's, you call it by name and go through it, so I apologize. It's not
That's
right.
not a problem. Since our town manager is not here, we can discuss the stellar projects and residential TIF. Some of the stellar projects are what those claims were actually for. The portion that CRC has agreed to pay toward the,
If I may, Sally, I've
Yeah.
put some information together for you all based on
Oh,
Jonathan's
okay,
last
great.
project or
Yeah.
last report. Just to let you know, the State Road 10 and West Jefferson projects went out for bid in January. And Reeve Riley was the lowest bidder at $853,550. Our budget construction estimate was $849,050. So it's a little bit, the bid was over what we expected, but not by a lot. And there's maybe some cost saving opportunity that we can take advantage of. Construction on those two projects should start in March. And Troyer Group will provide construction inspection services, and the local match will come from CRC. For the Lake Max Trail Phase 2, which goes along South Main Street, the property acquisition is almost complete. I believe most of the property owners have signed off, and I received invoices.
2 left.
Okay. I did receive invoices to pay those property owners, and that would come out of the CRC. I received them at end of day on Friday. So I didn't have time to turn them around, but I'll bring them to you at the next meeting. The project will go out to bid in mid-July, and the project is behind the other ones because of that property acquisition that we had to go through. At the January, the council approved Troyer Group for engineering services for the Jefferson and Slate Street Trail, and that will be funded through the county stellar application. And back, I want to say April, May, June timeframe, CRC committed $80,000 of funding towards that project. So that's essentially the 20% match on that. And just so you know, Bob Porter, who was our utilities superintendent, is really will be the point person on those solar projects. And then just as an update on Lake Max Phase 3, which is the trail that would go right now, as originally planned along Academy Road out to State Road 10. The council did vote to move ahead with that project along Academy Road. However, Dr. Berth of the Academies asked for some time to revisit an alternative route, which would run along the railroad bed. And so I don't have any other updates on that discussion. And then just following up on the rest of the last town manager report that Jonathan provided, just to keep some things to keep in mind as we move forward. We had talked, I believe we've signed a contract with Sharon Morphew for an economic development
We did.
workshop, and funds are committed from both the CRC and the town council for that, but a date has not yet been set. There was talk about a residential TIF, and I don't have any further information on that. And then both the CRC and the council, I believe each approved up to $5,000 each for a small business pitch night. And I think that just kind of went by the wayside.
It was supposed to happen like a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and I think with Jonathan leaving, it just,
Yeah.
it didn't happen. So I honestly, I mean, if that's something that you want to move forward with, I guess we need to communicate that desire, and we'll figure out a way to keep moving forward on that.
I mean, that, the pitch night could be, done anytime if we wanted to move forward with it.
But that's,
Might be something we can discuss.
that's what I have based on the last reports.
And, my understanding of residential TIFs, they approved residential TIFs, but it's still a little bit up in the air as to whether we would qualify. We have to, and I know that Jonathan was working on that and felt that, I believe it's 3%. If you haven't had, or a number of new houses in Culver, if they exceed 3%, then we wouldn't be available. We did qualify for a test.
What was, he said what was the development on 10 that they put in? I forgot the name of it.
That's the
Paddocks.
Not Paddocks.
Betsy property.
Yes. And that drove our number up because that was a series of all, like almost 40 new homes or whatever, and that threw it up, and he was going to go back and look at the numbers because if we fell below that threshold, and we could actually have a residential TIF, which would allow us to do some more creative things in addressing lower cost housing. And the only other place I know that has done a residential TIF right now is Warsaw. They've actually established it. So I'm sure we can go back in and look at the work that he was starting to do and find out about that, if that would be something.
And I know that they're coming up with, every week when I open my day, there's always new information about a TIF or things that changed with the TIFs in Indiana. And it's one of those things where you really have to keep up on it in order to figure out what you fit in to the TIF. Whether you can fit that TIF into account. So, any questions on, is that clear as mud? Okay. The next item on the agenda is old business. It's old business, but it's also new business. We need that, since Tom Uhas did an excellent job with the facade grants in the last several years. And we need to select a new person to be a point of contact for facade grants for the businesses in town. I could ask if there are any volunteers that are interested in that.
Luckily for us, we just voted off the last open facade grant with
That's, yes,
with Bob's Milwaukee's property, so there's not a lot pending. Tom is on the line, and we can, maybe at another point, we can talk a little bit about this, but the facade grant program is designed for driving property values up in the TIFs. We pay 50% of the external facade expenses to go through that to help our businesses invest. So they spend $1, they get 50 cents back up to a certain amount, and it drives and improves the property values, which is all one of the purposes of the TIFs. Tom coordinated and worked with the town manager And Karen, I think there's a process that, while Tom maintained contact and was out there interacting, there's a process that goes through and coordinating with the town on the facade grants.
Well, there's an application that the applicants would follow. There's a whole process online.
So it's established, and it's a great opportunity for anybody that wants to interact and take this forward to the businesses in our tips.
I know that before the COVID stopped everything basically in its tracks, we had a few people that were interested in the facade grant. We had changed it so that it also included roofs and paving and some other sidewalks in front of their properties, as well as the actual face of the business. So I think that given things are hopefully improving and will continue to improve, I always like to look on the bright side, that we will probably be getting some when finances pick up a little bit better for some of the businesses. They probably will be looking at applying for.
Is this, is the actual building owner the one that needs to be engaged with?
Yes,
Okay, so not all the businesses are owned, not all the businesses own buildings in.
Sure, the landlord of
If
the building owner would be.
yeah, if the person that has their business inside that, they would have to have the permission of the business owner first to make changes to the building or
Improvements.
improvements to the facade. So, but, you know, part of it is, they will see it online, but part also and apply. But part of it also is going and explaining to new businesses when they come in that this grant is available, because a lot of times, when you start up a new business, it's kind of hard to read through all of the town's information and understand might or might not entail. So it can be somewhat time consuming if you have a new business coming in, but I would say in the long run, it's probably, I don't know how much time Tom actually spent. Is he on the?
Yes.
Tom, if you're available to speak, how?
Hello, do you have me?
Yes.
We have a meeting, sorry.
I'd like to know how much time you spent on individual facade grants, just to give some of the people an idea of.
There really, there's not a lot of time involved. Probably the most important thing that once I kind of solicited before we even started the program to see if there was even an interest of the businesses in town, I just keep my eyes open when something new would open up. So like when even when the newest place, the Max to the Axe, when the place that makes the healthy strawberry swirly things, when they were there, I reached out to the golf cart people when they first opened up, the bicycle shop when he had first opened up. So you just have to kind of, you see a new business open when finally Sue McInturf and Foxworthy get the new building up. I'm sure obviously Sue's going to be aware that there's TIF money or grant or facade grant available. But that's all I did, is I just kind of went and met whoever the business owner was. And then the business owner, if they had an interest, especially for starting up with like signage or lighting, they're not necessarily going to put a new awning or paint the outside of the building, but for something like signage and lighting would be important right off the bat, just to make them aware of it. And then they would have to get the approval. The sign off would be from the owner of the building if they were indeed renting the property from someone. But, you know, it really is not that much. There's not a lot of work to it. I think now that the foundation's been laid, it's really pretty simple, and you just have to see, you know, be aware of, or have someone on the board commission even say, hey, did somebody talk to the new business owner? I hear this guy's coming to town. Let's make them aware of it. Because as I don't know that you covered it, that you said, but it's up to $30,000 available in a 5-year period of time. So that means they could do a $60,000 project, of which CRC would pick up half the tab of it if it qualifies for the type of improvement. So it's really turned out well, and I would encourage one of you to one of the new members to get involved, just to kind of get your feet wet, meet some of the business owners, and just get out there and really even be an advocate for the Redevelopment Commission. So I'd be happy to help anybody if the time comes where you had a question, but I know Paul and Sally are pretty well versed on it also. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate you explaining everything.
Yeah, the last one. You got a better description of this. You both need educated or that's fine, right? In business, you just take yeah, we'll reach out to
Good. That's fine. We can delay.
yeah, we can make it
Selecting
business and knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. And if anything comes in between,
Yeah.
Between Paul and I, one or the other, let's do it.
Yeah, but I'm thinking the only thing being built is between
Right.
now and then is a people out on the ice. I think we're gonna be okay. Yeah,
Doesn't have jurisdiction.
that's true.
Yeah. They're not.
It's not in the TIF. Yeah, not in the TIF.
Not in the TIF, not in the city limits.
Yeah.
The Marshall County Economic Development Corporation, MCEDC, Mr. Wells was going to be speaking, but he's ill, so that will be postponed to another date.
This is just background, because again, you may know this, because town council has a contract with MCEDC. We also have, and we took it from a $20,000 a year contract down to $10,000. We got copies of what the agreement looks like, and we tried to tie it more to measurable deliverables, because we were just kind of, under the previous leadership, we weren't getting what we wanted out of them. They were also, one of the things they're working on other roles this year, they were building this knowledge-based business capture plan, and went around and around, kind of fell, I think it fell by the wayside, which is okay until now figures out that that's a good economic development. So Laura's going to come in and talk to us about some things. That's the background that we have. Except for that plan, which got set aside toward the end, and then Jerry left. We don't have anything else. And
Next item on the agenda, if anybody does, do you have any questions about the MCEDC? Brandy and Heim Culver presentation. This is a presentation from Matt Keedy, the Executive Director of Heim Culver and Business Center. It's up on the screen. Man. Let's see him. Matt, go ahead.
Yeah.
with your-
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Well, hello, good evening. Thank you for having me here. I'm Matt Keedy, and as of last August, I'm the executive director for the Culver and Lake Maxinkuckee Visitor Center. I just wanted to kind of go through what we have been up to and where we're going and hope to be going, and I guess see if we have any questions. So just to start off, I think it's always good to keep in mind what the mission statement of any organization is. And for the Culver and Lake Maxinkuckee Visitor Center, our mission is to increase and strengthen tourism in order to support our local businesses and economy. And I'm sorry, but Karen's doing the slides for me because yeah. So something that I heard once, and I just thought I'd throw it in here, is tourism doesn't magically increase. Something happened, and that could be a variety of things. That could be a town or an area has something desirable to offer, or quality of life, and because people like to live here, then people like to visit. And as we all know, Culver has lots to offer. We're in a very unique position, and so one of the joys of my job is really to try and figure out how we can make more people aware of all that we have to offer. Next, please. So I thought that this, I guess, poster that was put out by Indiana Tourism, even though it is from pre-COVID, it does really highlight that just across the state, how much of the money and that's coming in is directly related to tourism. And it's a pretty broad umbrella. Obviously, it includes overnight stays, it includes restaurants, it includes people coming in from outside of the state, or people moving from one community to another to go see something or visit something. But the one statistic on this particular slide that I thought was particularly interesting is tourism is down by the house at the bottom. It says tourism saves Hoosiers money. Without tourism, each Indiana household would pay $566 additional dollars in taxes. So it really does have an effect. And that's on the state level, but you know, it can translate down to the community level as well. So translating that, obviously here for Culver, there's no denying that tourism matters in Culver. Visitor spending brings cash into our communities, creates jobs, enhances our local economy, and improves the quality of life for us residents. At the same time, travel and tourism heightens cultural awareness, helps create a sense of place for Culver and Lake Maxinkuckee, and can provide shared experiences to connect with friends and families across generations. After all, community cannot be a great place to visit if it's not a great place to live. And with that in mind, our overreaching message as far as our branding goes, and a lot of this was done by my predecessor, Danielle, but based on research and work with branding experts, we want to consistently push out content that highlights Culver as a safe, family-friendly, multicultural, and multi-generational town with year-round community activities and recreation both on and off the water. And I think this past weekend was a great example with Winterfest. It was just wonderful to see so many people out and about, both on the frozen lake, a few in the lake, and around town. The target audience for our branding, previous to my stepping into the position, 5 different target audiences were identified. The first is 20 to 30-year-olds in industries that allow work from home. And I think COVID has actually kind of exploited this. I mean, a lot of people have now found that they have jobs that can be commutable. And I think that this will really be an opportunity for Culver coming forward, that there's a lot of people that used to have a commute that may have a little more flexibility in where they can visit or live now. We also have 30, 40-year-olds interested in being involved in the community or starting a business. And recently retired folks with time to volunteer and get involved. Also residents whose Culver home is considered a second home. I think this year also proved that there's a lot of people who have always come here and considered Culver a second or seasonal home, but quickly pivoted and found that they were spending a lot more time here. And I can definitely put myself in that bucket. I never thought that at this stage I would be living in Culver. Having been here the last 50 years, I am definitely a case study in that point right there. And then also there's trailing spouses who move to Culver with their husbands or wives to work in Culver. And this just shows what our current branding looks like. I think it really highlights us well. So online, we have our findculver.com website, and then there's also culver.in, and we organize and promote the Find Culver blog, and work on consistently pushing information and sharing through our Facebook page. Our Instagram page is in a little bit of flux right now, but we are working on that. We're having a password issue.
Matt, this is Paul.
Hi.
How does the change in Facebook where you can't go and look at a page unless you're a member, how's that going to affect you when you're out there posting things on Facebook? Because if you're not a member now, Facebook will block you from looking at their pages.
I was not aware of that, so I'll have to look into it.
Okay, it is rolling out and it's happening for businesses, even our own town website, our own town Facebook site. You click on it. I found this out when I did this earlier this week, and you're blocked because I don't have a Facebook account. So that's going to impact you. Just as a heads up, that's going to change how you do business.
Well, that's good. Sounds like it's pretty recent, so I'll look into it.
This is Gary. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Presence. Yeah, so I mean, I'm wondering, I didn't see LinkedIn up there. That's a very popular business networking platform. And a lot of the target audience, that you mentioned on the previous slide, work, have jobs, and probably are on LinkedIn. So I'm just wondering if LinkedIn is also going to be, used as a platform to have a more robust online presence than Facebook and Instagram, which I'm not aware of either.
I'm sorry, but I only heard about 10% of what you said. You're not coming through clearly. I apologize.
He was, she's going to take the speaker over to her.
Can you hear me now, Matt?
That's better.
Okay, sorry about that. I'll make it shorter than I said earlier, but my other thought was on online presence. How about LinkedIn? Has that been, I mean, a lot of the target audience on your previous slide still works. They're technically advanced and so forth. And, what better way to, lure people to Culver with another platform as well?
I think that's an excellent idea. And we're also actually looking at, we're on that track. I haven't gotten there yet, but yes, LinkedIn. I hadn't thought about that in these terms, but I think that's a great idea. Any other questions? So as far as our marketing responsibilities, we definitely try and promote the fact that we are a stellar community. And then we've also found that our recent designation as a walk-friendly community has gotten some attention. A lot of people are actually interested in that. And a lot of the articles that have come out this year about those who have fled the cities for someplace more rural during COVID, one of the top things that they're looking for is to still have a walkability issue. So I think Culver's placed well with that designation. And so we definitely include it with anything that we put out there. And then obviously with Main Street, we're an Okra downtown affiliate network, and whenever it's appropriate, we share that. Making Culver Home is a marketing campaign, and we've been working on that. And most recently, we've added the Welcome Wagon program, where we partnered with local merchants and organizations to welcome those who are new to Culver, who have not lived in Culver, had a presence in Culver before. And they have been very well received initially. There's been a lot of move-ins recently to Sand Hill and to the Paddocks, and several were delivered a couple weeks ago, and they've been very well received. Kevin's been doing a great job keeping me in the loop of how many more baskets he needs, and everything I've heard so far has been very positive. We had a nice article that Jamie did for the Culver Citizen, and it was also put out in the Pilot News, so it's getting a lot of traction. And then there's the events that you would expect, and we look forward to promoting. Most recently, this past weekend, obviously, we had Winterfest. I was really pleased to hear from a couple of the merchants that they were almost at last year's levels as far as sales went. And despite all the COVID restrictions, they were very pleased with this weekend's draw. And that was the same takeaway that we got from them with the Holiday Hop back in December and Small Business Saturday. There were really good numbers, close enough to last year that they really felt that, considering everything that's going on, that both were quite a success. And we spent a lot of time trying to promote those. Obviously, lots of events last year were canceled or significantly altered. But this past weekend we had Winterfest, Cupid's Crawl, Cupid's Start. Throughout the winter, we have the Winter Farmers Market. And then coming up at Easter, hopefully we'll be able to do the Easter egg hunt and the town-wide garage sales, which I think those went ahead last year and did pretty well since everybody had been home cleaning out their closets. Max Move and onward. In the summer, obviously, lots of activities, whether it's Taste of Culver, Lake Fest, the Sailing Saturdays, the Moonlight Serenade, the Triathlon Fireman's Festival. Really, for Culver, we have so much to offer and promote. And then in the fall, we have the Scarecrow Contest and the Wine Fair. And we're just hoping that some of the things that got pushed away last year can come back this year so that we can continue to promote them. And then something that we're going to be doing this year, which is a bit serendipitous and kind of a one-off, is in a previous life, I had a design company and participated several times in the St. Margaret's Guild Decorator Show House, which is in Indianapolis and is the oldest show home decorator show house in the country that's been continuously running. And the house that they have selected this year happens to be the home that was built by Meredith Nicholson, who wrote the House of a Thousand Candles, which anybody that knows some of the local history here on the lake, the house still exists on the northeast shore, and in the book, it's a I want to say it was a convent or a nunnery or something like that, but the inspiration was taken from the Culver Academies. Then in 1906, it was one of the top 5 best-selling books in the world, and Meredith Nicholson made a lot of money off of not just the book, but all the spin-offs that came from it. And he was able to eventually build this beautiful home on North Meridian Street in Indianapolis. So we have partnered with one of the design firms that's participating in this year's decorator show house, and we will have some Culver items in there. And then along with the new town maps and brochures, we'll be promoting Culver to an audience where there's probably a lot of people that are already somewhat familiar with Culver, but it'll give that extra oomph to get our name out, and we're very much looking forward to that. And next, please. So some of the advertising that we've been doing, primarily Lakes Magazine, we run an ad with them every month. We're able to run an ad with discount by co-oping with other Culver businesses and placing ads on the same page as other Culver businesses. As a result of advertising every month, Lakes Magazine has done a nice job making sure that Culver businesses are highlighted in the magazine. And on the next slide, you will see that this past year, they highlighted the Culver Winters Farmers Market and Legacy Salon and Brocky Insurance, and then the middle row, the Culver Coffee Shop, and then in the middle we actually had a cover of the magazine with their Park and Shop issue. They've also covered the Lake Max Triathlon, Renew Massage and Wellness, and then there were articles that were done about a Culver Daycation and Maxinkuckee history, Chautauqua. So lots of good information has come out through Lakes Magazine. And their monthly reach is about 69,000 people, and it's local content-based publication, and it's a valuable resource that's mailed to residents of Pulaski, Fulton, Stark, Marshall counties. And they also do a really good job with their social media, and the magazines are free online, so it can easily be read. The articles can easily be read or downloaded. And then you can see some of the ads that have been put out by the Visitor Center about with the Find Culver campaign. And next slide. And yes.
Gary Perrick again. Regarding your advertising outlets, have you given it thought about going beyond local? So what I'm thinking here, Business Living, Chicago Magazine, Indie Mag, any Michigan mags, and the social media platforms. Really, I'm not getting at the magazine. I don't know if anyone reads magazines, but or the social media engine behind those publications, and trying to go beyond the local to attract from a greater pool population.
Yeah, so the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be placing an ad in the Decorator Show House program, and that program is done with by Indianapolis Monthly Magazine. And so we will be able to reach with the advertising that we do there, not only the attendees of the show home that go I think it's 10 or 12,000 expected visitors that go through the show home during the several weeks that it's open. But also they highlight the show home, and the ad also will appear in Indianapolis Monthly. Indianapolis Monthly over the years has done a nice job. I would say every couple of years you see a nice article about Lake Maxinkuckee and Culver in them. I'm hoping that this will give us a reason to kind of get back on their radar. But those magazines, it's quite expensive to put an ad in the Chicago Living or the Indianapolis Living magazines. So a lot of times in the past, I would guess it comes down to budget. When I initially came to the position and looked at the numbers, I didn't think that they were numbers that were in our budget.
I'll chime in too real quick. This is Danielle Maverick, and I'm Matt's predecessor. So Matt kind of came into the position mid-COVID. And so we did do advertising in Notre Dame's program. We did, along with Becca, who was my predecessor, we did some of those farther reaching magazines in Chicago and Indy. And Matt's right. If you go to Chicago, you're probably quadruple the cost of local marketing at a minimum. And if you go to Indy, you're probably triple the cost. And although we would constantly put in, mention this ad for a free gift or something like that, we just had no way to measure that the dollars that were being spent on those farther out magazines were paying off for us. And then, so we were already sort of making a shift to things that were more measurable. And then COVID hit. And because of COVID, as a board, we decided to pull back to much more local because no one was able to travel.
Yeah, I have the, I was trying to pull them up real quick, but I don't want to take up too much time. But I have the numbers, for example, for the Indianapolis Monthly. I mean, it's definitely in the thousands of dollars for an ad. On a later slide, I mentioned we would like to do a quarter ad that would appear both in the program, a quarter page ad that would appear both in the program and Indianapolis Monthly. And for a color ad, it's $1,600, and that's a special rate that we would get because it's through the show home, and they have a special relationship with Indianapolis Monthly and the Decorator Show House. So it's a good way to get in there for a lot less money, and we're hoping to utilize that. But I think quarter page ads, if I remember correctly, they're at least $5,000 or $6,000 for a quarter page ad for Indianapolis Monthly. And it's hard to, we know who they go out to. Their audience, I believe, is, I'm going to get that. The net worth of the average household that subscribes is $194,000 for Indianapolis Monthly. So it's quite high, and they have well over 100,000 subscribers, and their reach is pretty wide in central Indiana. So it is good, but how do we know if that's going to pay off?
What about the Plan B? Just their social media platforms. Are those rates? I mean, I would imagine the rates would be a lot less on the virtual version of the magazine. But I'm not.
Yeah, I'd be happy to look into that and see if there's just a social, if they have something where they just push out content. I think more something that's coming up is Visit Indiana. Covers tourism around the state, and they have a lot of more affordable options, and they not only is it more affordable, but they're geared towards tracking the information. So for example, our new brochures that we're getting, we're going to give them 1,100, which is their minimum for distribution around the state at toll roads and visitor center and stuff. But then they also have part of that where if somebody orders a brochure online, then they track that and let us know, where did that brochure go? And so I'm hoping that, that will start to give us some, metrics that we can follow, at least with the brochure through Visit Indiana. And although most of those who log in to Visit Indiana are in Indiana, they do say that they have 5 different, and I assume it's the 5 surrounding states that they ship to as well, and get a majority of out of state from the 5 surrounding states. So I think maybe a little more, in my mind, I'm focused more on that and looking at the different options they have. The deadline, it was too late. We didn't have things ready with the new brochure to get into the 2021 brochure, which everything had to be in by December, early December. But looking forward, it may be worth doing that. But also they have all sorts of options, both online and social media, and things that we can do on a month to month basis, which might make sense because we tend to get most of our visitors in the summer. And I've also utilized some of their free advertising that they have just on their events page. I put Culver Winterfest up for last weekend's events, and it was free. It didn't cost anything, and so it was on the Visit Indiana website. And their numbers this year, again, when we get to it on a future slide, I'll be able to go a little more quickly over it, but I'll just say right now that as expected, they started off last year above 2019 numbers, and then COVID hit, and like pretty much every tourist related business, they got pummeled. But they did a lot of hard work and they figured out what people were looking for, and by the end of the year, they ended up having more traffic on their websites and more distributions than they had in 2019. So they were really able to turn things around and find out what people wanted. And we'll get to that in a few slides here. I have some of the things that they've done highlighted. So shall we continue?
Certainly, Matt. It's snowing really hard here.
Yeah.
We put you under pressure here, but we're looking out the window going, damn, I hope we get to these slides because it's snowing hard.
We can't really see the other side of the lake anymore.
Go ahead, Matt.
We just went to a level 5.
Let's go to the next slide then.
It's there.
We can just glide over that next slide. It basically just, no, I'm sorry. Here we are. So these will be pretty familiar. We all know Culver Citizen, Pilot News, Regional Sports Network are all items that we use. And then, as I was mentioning, the Visit Indiana, we got highlighted on their website this year when they had a contest for Best Lake in Indiana. And Maxicaki was voted the 3rd best in the state after Wawasee and Lake Michigan. And like I just said, we'll use their free distribution network. As we continue, I'll just mention they had a program this year called Hoosier Hospitality, which was very popular. I think most of the slides, moving ahead, why don't I just go through to the end, because everybody can read, if they haven't already, what's been printed and the examples that were given. Basically, last year, we were approved for $20,000. This year, we're not sure exactly where things are going. As far as with COVID, we think they're going to be better, but at the end of the day, last year, our actual expenses were just over $11,000, and we would like to request $15,000 to get us started for this year with our funding. So how's that for a hard wrap at the end?
That's
Very
fine.
nice. Matt, a couple of things in looking at all the slides. I appreciate all the work you did. Understand you're the guy that just came in to do this, because your metrics, and you've looked at the metrics on your slides from either Facebook or some of the others, only go back a couple months. So we understand that you can't give us a longer picture of what the effect of what you guys have done. And this is all for us to talk about here. You've seen what we did last year. We've done contracts where we needed to do contracts with business. And our funding through you guys, to you guys last year was just kind of on an open-ended basis. You do something and then the organization would send us invoices and we would pay them. And I personally don't think that's the way we need to do business. And the reason I'm the one that asked you guys to do this, because I think we need to look as who we are, CRC, where we're investing our money for branding, because we also put money through MCEDC, they brand for us. You're also doing branding for other organizations, and we need to understand what we are doing, where does it fit into our TIFs, and then contract to do that. So those are my thoughts. You put all this together for us, and because we didn't have a baseline before. I have been on CRC, this is my 3rd year, and all I knew there was a branding bucket, and I had no idea how the money was being spent. And it was probably for the general good of Culver, but that's not the way we should work. So you guys cover a lot in tourism, and personally, I think that was, you put a lot into this work and coming up with a plan, and also just telling where we are. This is just me. I think where we are, that we need to understand what we're doing, especially with economic development going forward. Where does the council want to spend its money? How does it tie into CRC, and where does it spend its money when it comes to this? And that's just my point. And I don't have any other questions for you.
I would like to thank you for your presentation. I think you did a very good job working this up for us, and I think I understand more of what the money has been spent for this previous year than I did in years before. So anyway, I think we will put that on the agenda for the next meeting and discuss it further. I want to thank you for your presentation.
Well, thank you, and stay safe with the snow. Sorry.
Yeah,
No worries.
most of us live close enough we can shovel our way home.
Any other questions, you guys?
No, just wanted to thank Matt. It was a very informative slide deck and presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. You want to say something about the economic development workshop? You want to pass on that?
Well, Karen actually brought it up, that we're going to do it, and I assume we're working together with town council. Yeah. So Karen already brought that up.
Is there any new business other than the conflicts of interest? Okay. Karen does have conflict of interest statements for all of us to fill out.
I will email this to you. I didn't bring them with me tonight.
Okay, that would be
But
great.
I guess I need a little bit more, considering what was brought up back in December as what constitutes and what we have to do with the redevelopment commission, asking the question of what are we dealing with?
Right.
So I will do that research and get back to you in March.
That sounds great. Appreciate that. Do we have any public input?
Kevin Berger had his hand up at one point. I think we took it down. And then when I was talking about the habits, that
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think the baskets have been a great addition for the paddocks. I know I've said this over and over again, but I'm bringing in new residents as part of the paddocks, which is one of the stellar projects. But they're not going to be citizens unless the community welcomes them and makes them citizens. I think the baskets have been a great start to that, and I hope we can continue and turn some of these bedrooms into future community leaders and involve people.
Very true. I think the baskets were an extremely good idea. I can remember when they used to give them out years ago.
We all miss Chucky.
Yep, yes, we do. He was a good neighbor.
Yes.
Is there any other public input?
Can I just say make one quick comment, because I know the snow's coming down.
Yeah.
It's Lee Marshall. I would just hope, I know Karen Heim was kind enough to share some figures on the amount of money that's been invested in Fine Culver the last several years. I think the council spent over $85,000 and the CRC comes in at about 70. So it's about 150 some $1,000. And since I've lived in Culver, there's never been a presentation about what they do. I've never seen any interaction or any sort of, partnering with the council about where we're going and what we want to do. It was a lot of information today, in my mind, with no real data. I think Paul made the point that they hadn't really kept data, so they could only report on the last several months. I would just hope, if we're going to commit a significant amount of money to some sort of digital marketing effort, that we not just look at one possibility, that we look at what might be in the best interest of Culver, and just consider that there might be some other organizations that we should have a conversation with.
I think we're all open to new information. I'm sure Matt is as well. So thank you very much. Is there any other public input, or? I don't see any. Let's go to member input. Go ahead. Oh.
So I serve on the AIM, which is the Accelerate Indiana Municipalities Legislative Committee, and that's kind of our legislative group for cities and towns across Indiana. And every year there's always real legislation about TIF, and you may or may not be receiving information in your emails. And there's different tasks that people are taking, and some of it is just schools are upset because they're not getting funding that they feel that they need, or groups aren't working well together. And one thing that I would like to see us do is to make a little bit of noise about by cities and towns that are getting along, and we're doing things well, and we're working with our schools, and we're supporting our schools, and just letting people know that I think Karen Schumann would probably agree that the CRC stepped up on a number of projects to support their efforts in the community as well as the town council. There's an interlocal agreement that we have with the school, and I would encourage the CRC, if you're so, if you feel the same, if you would consider drafting a letter, basically just saying, this is what we've been doing in our community with our schools and supporting them.
A letter to AIM, or?
Actually, just a general letter that we can maybe compile with other communities who are in the same situation as we are. So let the legislature know.
A lot of times the legislature, they look at the big cities and they never hear or see the small towns.
Exactly, and they hear the ones that are the bad actors more than they do those of us who are following the rules, but trying to do our best and to grow our communities. And it's time for us to.
Karen, you want to draft a letter? That's fine.
Thank you, Karen. Gary, do you have any member input?
No, not at this point.
At this point.
Bill?
No, not at this time, thank you.
Paul?
No.
I have nothing further than thank you for and I'm not sure what's wrong with that thing, but it's,
Somebody on the other side.
yeah, somebody that's not muted probably. Karen, do you have any?
No,
Yeah, Karen Schuman, do you have any input?
I just want to agree with Karen Heim too, that the cooperation between CRC and us schools has been great. We're looking for future projects too that unite us with the town to bring more residents here. So we need to keep that path in mind as we go down our projects. Also, there is no school tomorrow, just for those who are wondering and that are on this, we just closed because of the weather. So be safe out there.
Okay. Thank you very much. And now I have a motion to adjourn.
No move.
I have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Karen, you can vote on this one. They always said you could.
Yeah.
Gave us a thumbs up. So meeting is adjourned.